lights on, man. It's just us. It's just us, man.
Can you believe it?
I can't, man. Like this feels unreal.
Yeah.
This
How do
feels
you feel
unreal.
then? Like, what is like emotionally, physically? Like, okay, you finally been asked. You finally get the keys to the Benz, and now you in the Benz. Like, what are you feeling now driving this bus called First Start Church?
You know what's crazy about that? But just even that analogy of that is, you know how you see the Benz from a distance?
Oh yeah.
And the exterior, you're like, ooh, and then you get in it, and you figure out it can do so much, but also the maintenance of that. So I've gotten that glimpse into the maintenance of that thing and what it takes to operate where you think you can do it a certain way, and you're realizing every day there's so much more to this than what you can fathom beforehand.
Absolutely.
Like, you're game for it, but this is like, it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, it like reminds me of there's a difference between being on the outside of the car than on the inside of the car.
That's it.
Like,
that's it.
It's so cool to just see a car, be like, man, I want that type of car, or I want that type of life, or I want that type of marriage, or I want that type of church.
Yes.
And then you finally get in there, you start realizing, dang, hold on, I gotta check the fuel too. I gotta make sure I'm not going too fast. I gotta make sure that the people behind me, like,
yeah.
To it.
Yeah. To be honest, you just nailed it. Like, it's like every day it can feel like a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
There are some moments, Apostle Boone, there are some moments where when I'm off from work, the laptop closing, right? The kids are asleep, my wife is asleep, where I'm just sitting there.
Absolutely.
Everything's off, right? There's no TV, away from my phone, and I'm just sitting there like, what just happened? And it's that you're on the inside of it, but also inside of us, it's like this thing that won't turn off.
Of course.
How do you handle that? Like, the thing inside, it's like being creative. Like, it never turns off. How do you handle the thing in you, man, where the motor never stops running? Like,
yeah, it's that passion, it's that zeal, it's that that desire to want to be better. And I don't think you can ever turn it off. The better way that I can say is you learn how to manage it. So, like, for example, since we're using a car analogy, like, I got this new sports car. It has a lot of power, but I have to learn how to manage it so that I don't, number one, push it too hard or give it too much or then get pulled over, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I've been in that position. Like, all this is going on, a lot of happening. I don't know how to turn it off or whatever. The difference between you and me is you got kids and a wife. Me, I could just get up and start working or whatever. But I had to learn even in that I had to learn how to manage it versus turn it off. Because this new sports car I've been talking about, I got, like, the car can cut off, but the battery is always working. So just because something is turned off doesn't mean something ain't moving or something ain't operating. Something ain't happening, so I think it's more learning how to manage versus turn it off, because sometimes when you turn something off, it's hard to turn it back on.
wow.
I remember when, like, somebody get their car jumped and they like, okay, now let it run for a little while, don't turn it off. And you get that jump, you gotta just let it run. And I think sometimes when you learn how to turn something off, it's hard to turn it back on. So I would say more so learn how to manage it.
Man, with learning how to manage it, like, how do I navigate managing even the emotions of you're constantly hitting all these buckets every day, whether it's ministry, family, business, etc. And it's like you're constantly pouring out, like, you're constantly pouring, and you're trying to manage everything, juggle everything, and this is like, I have no idea how to do this.
Absolutely.
Like, how do I manage all this? Like,
it's a good place to be in. None of us ever know how to do it. There's a lot of things that we do and we really don't know that we're doing it right or wrong until you see the outcome. Sometimes I learned the best stuff, bro, trial and error. There was no manual for how to pastor. No one set me down and said, this is what you do and this is how you do it. I mean, the same with becoming a father or the same with becoming a husband or a wife. Like, no one just hands you the book and say, yo, this is how you do it. It's trial and error. You learn on the go. No one told me how to manage $1 million budget until I had $1 million budget. No one told me how to handle multiple locations until I had multiple. Like, it's no manual for it. And I think the thing is that we have to learn how not to penalize ourselves for what we're learning. It's like we're already penalizing ourselves for not knowing it. We could have been better. We should be doing this. And why do I feel this way? Don't penalize yourself. I'm learning. Like, I had a Jai touch stuff, play with stuff, mess with stuff, whatever. And I have to remind myself, this is his first time doing this. He's never been a human before. He's never been here before. But we will respond to someone based off of our experience and ignore that person hasn't had that experience that we had.
Makes sense.
So don't penalize yourself because you don't know how to do this yet or how to manage that or where to put this energy. Let yourself feel it and learn as you go.
That's good.
And that's how I was able for 20 years to do ministry. Like, ministry training that you have, I gave y'all what I wanted to have when I was getting trained. I didn't get that type of training. I was literally like, yo, they was like, you called? All right, you preaching on Sunday. And it was called a trial sermon. Wasn't no classes, wasn't no this is how you study, wasn't no this is no homiletical bridge, exegeting the text. It was literally, hey y'all, he got a call in his life, he's preaching on Sunday. And then from that trial sermon, they throw you into ministry. So there is no manual. So I always ended up trying to give what I would have wanted. But even in giving the next generation what you have wanted, that generation still has a void in some other area. So you can't penalize yourself. You gotta remember, I'm learning. And you'll never stop learning.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You got it.
When I think about the word rebuke, man, I think it has a negative connotation, and I believe that the church as a whole has modeled it incorrectly. You know, sometimes people get rebuked from the pulpit, or they get embarrassed, or they get set down like a rebuke. When I think about a rebuke, man, I think it's done in love, you know? I think when we look at what Jesus did, like he turned over tables, but that was one time. Majority of the time, his rebuke was in love. I think sometimes rebuke shouldn't always come from one side. It has to be a balance. So who rebukes the rebuker?
That's a good question.
You know, like, like if I'm always the one rebuking, but I never get rebuked, even the rebuker needs a rebuke.
Man. One thing I can always say is, you have never had an issue with even like rebuking me. Like something was off, something needed correct. It was, man, the way you have approached it, even with me, man, like it's always like wrapped in this love, and because I trust your heart, man, I'm able to receive that. Like that, it's almost like, so there's this place in the text where Jesus says to go to the cross, and Peter's like, no, you ain't never going to the cross. And Jesus is like, he had to rebuke Peter because Peter's thinking about what his flesh wants, not thinking about the whole, like the broader picture kind of thing. And so that kind of love wasn't meant to harm Peter, but meant to help him see things differently.
That's so rich.
Yeah.
And that's always been my goal, though. You know, even with you, is just to make sure that in the rebuke, you understand it's for you to become better.
That makes sense.
Like, this is how I look at a relationship. You're a reflection of me. Why would I push you into something or do something to you that would be a reflection of me? In a negative way, in a bad way, or whatever. Like, that's how I feel when you have relationships, connection. If he wins, I win. If he overcomes this, I overcome it. If he becomes better in that area, I'm a better person. Like, it's all connected.
That's good, man.
So it always has to be wrapped up in it. Like, because I want you to be the best version of you. and I'm trying to give you what maybe I never had.
That's good, man. Man, shepherd. You know, my mind really goes to this place of like the ability of like a shepherd, an actual shepherd, to how he handles sheep. Like how a shepherd can call the name of sheep, how he names sheep, and they come like that. The dynamic of that, how a shepherd can stand in one spot, and he makes he calls a name, and his sheep respond to him. Like that, man. That has made me realize this and begin to shepherd here at Fresh Start. There are gonna be people here that God's gonna send because they hear a voice and a sound, and they'll be drawn to that sound. But even on a greater sense, I believe that our house has a sound.
Yeah.
And I think people are gonna be drawn, man, in a way like they never have before to that sound that God is giving the house.
Yeah, I think the shepherd too has to model what they want to see. So for example, like I travel a lot, preaching all kind of places, right? And one of the things that would disturb me was shepherds wanted their church to be a church of worship, but they never came into worship. You get what I'm saying? Or the shepherd wants people to be nice to the members, their leaders, but the shepherd isn't nice to his staff. So it's almost like model what you want to see, become what you desire. I know for so long I saw like models of the real shepherd leads from the front and the sheep follow, right? But recently I saw a different paradigm where they said a real shepherd never leads from the front. He always leads from the back because he can see all of his sheep. And I think maybe this is a time where we take on that approach versus I'm the shepherd, follow me. And I'm the shepherd, you go, I'm making sure that you cover. Like it makes me ask the question, like, and I think we probably talked about this before, what's the difference between a lid and a cover? They both almost do the same type of job. So if I had a cup, like you go preach somewhere, they bring your little cup out, they put a little cover on it. And then some people have lids. So what's the difference between a cover and a lid, or what's the difference between a covering and a lid? Like their functionality are supposed to do the same thing. You get what I'm saying? And when I look at a shepherd, I think about the same thing. I think you have two different types of shepherd. You have one that acts as a covering, and you got one that acts as a lid. And for me, the difference between the two is, they both are supposed to do the same thing, but when I look at a covering keeps things from getting in. So you put a cover over a cup is to keep stuff from getting inside that cup. But you put a lid on it, it changes its role. It's to keep stuff from getting out. Some shepherds literally keep their people lid. They never can get out with their purpose, their gifting, their anointing. It's just, they never function in it. But then you got some shepherds that literally said, no, I'm covering you so this stuff can't get in you. You're too precious, you're too important. But that doesn't mean one day I don't lift that up so that you can be what you're supposed to be. So
amazing. I don't know where you get this stuff from.
Shepherd,
I don't know where you get this stuff from, man. Like on the spot, it just flow out, man. It's crazy. It's
I'm
crazy.
learning as I go.
I dig it. We're gifted, yet people don't see where like our gaps, right? And so they see an anointed gift, a gift or what have you, but they miss the part that you still have some areas that still have to be dealt with and worked out. And so as you're sharing with leading with the team, now I have to learn how to delegate and work with a body of people when I'm so used to I can get it done by myself. Like a lot of us have that, where it's like, you know what, you're not doing it right, so I'll just do it how I want to do it, and you can pick up the pieces later. Like let me just. And what happens is sometimes I think we have to do damage control later. Bingo. So a big thing for leading with the team that I'm learning even now is the process by which you get to the goal. Sometimes some people are so consumed with seeing the finished product, not realizing the damage that happened along the way to get to that end place. And so now my leading with the team is more so of this, yes, we're going to get here, but I gotta make sure we get there in a healthy way and that it can be duplicated over and over again, scaled and grown. Whether it's me by myself, I don't care who involved. I'm just gonna blaze this trail and it be over.
Yeah. And I think we all get there, man, as leaders. Like, you are me. I do the same exact thing. Like, oh, they didn't get it done? I do it. And then we teach ourselves.
Yes.
But at the same time, then we kind of limit ourselves as well. And then we stunt the growth of those who are under us and entrusted to us.
That's good.
Trust is a big issue for me.
Likewise. Likewise.
I think once you've had breaches of trust or you've had people in roles and they let you down, then you become a little more cautious, and the next person you hire, and then they let you down, you become even extra cautious. So this whole trust area, you have to be intentional by it, but I don't know if I've mastered it. It was also the father who went up with his feeling. He was blind, and the Bible says that he said, you sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau. And sometimes our feelings can mess us up. Because we hear, but we trust what we feel more than what we hear. And I've been in that position where I knew I shouldn't trust the person, but I was so vulnerable and felt so safe because it felt right. But I heard, this is not the person you need to trust. But I felt like I could. And sometimes I think the church as a whole, especially spiritual people, we're always led by feelings. So we get goosebumps, oh, they feel like that person's anointed. Or we get into a good environment and shouting happening, oh, I feel like this is what, man, that service was amazing. But we don't know what we heard, the word, what did they preach about? I don't know. So sometimes what we hear is more valuable than what we feel, especially when it comes to that trust piece. So I'm still learning how to navigate, and so I put laws on my life when it comes to that. Rules, boundaries, like.
Makes sense. That's good, man.